Hey there all, I hope this video finds you doing well. We're going to do it in a new format this week, so please let me know what you think. This way is definitely a lot easier for me to put together. And this is take two because the first time through it did not record my audio, so hopefully we'll be good to go. You do need your student version of your notes out in front of you. Slides 7 through 12 is what we're going to be focusing on today. As we move into this, last week we talked about molarity, and molarity is nothing more than a concentration. And so we're going to be looking at concentrations as we move throughout this content, chapter 12 specifically. And for this one, we're going to be looking at percent concentration by mass, and we're going to be looking at what we call PPM, or parts per million. You may have heard of that before. So we're going to start off with slide 7, example problem here for doing percent concentration by mass, pretty similar to percent by mass that we did way back when with atoms inside of chemical compounds. So if you can get your mind in that mindset, we'll be good to go. Go ahead and read through the problem on slide 7 and set up your guess method. You'll see here that I have my GUESS written out, so that'll definitely be helpful for you. So pause the video if you need to. So I wrote out my GUESS. I've got my givens. Notice that I said grams of solution and percent of solution. It's going to be very important that you keep track of these different labels on your numbers. Our unknown is grams of solute, so keep that in mind. We were given a percentage in the problem, 8.50%, but we need to take that out of a percent, and we just simply divide by 100 to do that. Pretty standard when it comes to math. With percentages. So I've got everything else written out here. My equation for percent solution is grams solute over grams solvent. Remember, solute is the thing that gets dissolved. Solvent is the thing that does the dissolving. Most of the time it's water. So our solute is going to be the calcium chloride. As we set up our units, we take our givens, we place it in our equation. We end up multiplying these two numbers together, the percentage that was converted to a decimal, and then the grams of solution to find the grams of solute. And I rewrote that here for you to see. And then we've got our digit term with our exponent, our unit, and our label. So just pretty similar to what we've been doing up to this point. Do pause the video if you need to go back and take a look at that example again. There is a student example for you to do, a couple of them actually. On slide 8, I wanted to give you a tip. Keep in mind that a solution is made up of the solute plus the solvent. So if we're looking at the mass, we can add those two together. And so we can almost say that the equation is grams solute divided by parentheses grams solute plus grams solvent. So keep that in mind as you're working on slide 8. And as you do slides 9 and 10, please do check those on the teacher version. Moving to slide 11, this is where we're going to look at parts per million, or PPM. You may have heard of this before. The most common one that jumps to my mind is that we take a look at certain elements or certain compounds in water, and we can use that to decide if that water is safe. So we might look at the PPM of lead, for example, and if the PPM of lead is too high, then we would consider that water not to be safe for consumption. So again, this is a concentration, grams of solute divided by grams of solution. And then here's where we get the PPM, the parts per million. It's 10 to the 6th power. So please read the problem on slide 11, and we'll get our givens written out here. Grams of solute, grams of solution, those corresponding values. We're looking at the PPM of sodium bromide. To do that, we just plug it into our equation, grams solute over grams solution times 10 to the 6th power. And this is, parts per million is not a super challenging calculation. So as we move through and we look at it a little bit more detail here, you'll see that we have the grams of solute over the grams of solution times 10 to the 6th. Again, scientific notation, significant figures, exponent value. PPM is our new label for parts per million, and then our, unit, and then label would be NABR. So please do pause this, go back, watch it again if you need to, and then reach out to your teacher with any specific questions that you have. The more specific you are in email, the easier it is for your teacher going to be able to answer those questions.